taking care of the metal gates. One of the issues was somebody had gone around the metal gates with an ATV or a quad or something like that, and they were gaining access without opening the gate. So I want to thank you for getting staff to put some big blocks on not only the Ferry Park side, but also the Goffbrook Lane side. So thank you. The couple of things, oh, and the other thing that was done was along Meadow Road, there was a lot of brush that had just grown into the road, and you couldn't walk on the shoulder. It would make people walk in the lane. So somebody, I don't know if it was the owner or someone cut that brush, and you're able to walk now safely. So thank you, whoever that was. If it was staff, you guys, thanks. The other things that are still outstanding, and I'd like to still bring them to your attention again, is the amount of dead trees from Ferry Park along Meadow Road going into the meadows. I counted at least 20 dead trees on right on the shoulder. Recently on Glastonbury Avenue, one of the dead trees that fell on somebody's car. So if we can develop a plan for that, I'd appreciate that. The other two things were the area that is the dump right now also has access for that an ATV can come in and out of. That place should be gated off and secured. And so I would ask you to check that out if you could, the dump. And then lastly, I was asking if there's a possibility that we can develop a public safety plan for Meadow Road, for that area from the railroad station to Ferry Park. I think I suggested that we lower the speed limit. Speed limit now is 25. Whatever we have to do to lower that, I would suggest it to 20 or 15 if possible, possibly putting in a speed bump. But as the pictures I showed you last time, pedestrians and cars are sharing the same lane. So there's got to be something that we can do to develop a plan. So those are the things that I just wanted to bring to your attention. Again, if there's any updates, I appreciate to hear them. Okay?
Sure. Hey, Ed.
Yeah. Hey, nice, huh?
Take one. There's more where they come from, and we'll work on DOT signs for you.
Beautiful. Love it.
Any other comment from the public? Okay, hearing none. We have nobody in queue. Oh, we do have somebody in queue. We are going to, I'm going to ask for a motion. We have we have the health district in queue remotely to Zoom in, and so with that, I'm looking to see if we can have a motion to move the health district's report under departmental updates, move to the top.
You're looking for old business? Central Connecticut Health District.
Moving that up to into.
So I'll make a motion that we move item 5A, old business update on CCHD, up to prior to department updates.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. All right. With that, we can zoom in to the Central Connecticut Health District. Charlie, you're good to go. Okay.
We can just bring him back when he.
We'll bring him back when he zooms in. All right. With that, we'll move on to fire department update. Chief Gary.
Thank you, Ed. I'll just be real brief, hit you up with some of the monthly metrics. We responded to 79 incidents last month, and this is for the month of September. Brought our year-to-date up to 544, and year-to-date last year for September was 465, so we're still showing an increase. I have Charlie back on the screen in front of me. Do you want me to continue, or?
I appreciate you yielding. That's great. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, Chief.
No worries.
Charlie, you're all set if you want to go ahead.
Sorry, guys, having technical difficulties. Okay, so Rocky Hill status of the COVID-19 at this point, total cases stands at 2,066. Total deaths in Rocky Hill as of the 15th is 131. Vaccination status is still increasing slowly, but we're doing a pretty good job among those most affected by COVID for fatalities, which is those above 65. Rocky Hill currently has 96.38% of their 65 plus population vaccinated. 44 to 64, 76.4%. The 25 to 44 age range, almost 81%. The 8 to 24, just about 75%, and the 12 to 17%, 17-year-olds are up to 61.82. We are seeing overall, trends moving down. Rocky Hill's currently in the yellow alert phase, and we're able to remove the mask mandate, and hopefully it's going to continue to stay down. Trends within the state and nationally have started to continue to move down overall. So we're hopeful that as we move into the winter and actually start to see more people congregating, that we don't see the spikes that we did last year. We are, once again, continuing to ask people to seek out vaccination, the primary preventive measure, and also to, continue to practice the 3 W's, wear a mask, watch your distance, and wash your hands, overall to keep, this infectious disease from spreading. In addition to COVID, we're currently in the middle, pretty much smack dab in the middle, providing flu shots. We have provided one drive-through clinic last week at Elmridge Park, which was, I think, very successful. We're going to have another one coming up here, I believe, this week as well. So from 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. These are by appointment only. So I would recommend if people are looking for a flu shot very efficiently, just to go to our website and go ahead and log in and get your appointment soon. With that, I stand by to answer any questions.
Councilor Emmanuel?
Charlie, how do we compare with the statistics? How do we compare with the surrounding towns? Are we doing better in terms of vaccination?
Vaccination, I think you're doing better than some, a little worse than others. Y'all are probably in the middle of the pack. I think Berlin is doing the best in the older population. They have 100% of their elderly vaccinated at this point. Others are just a little bit behind that. But then, Berlin, as you get into the younger populations, they haven't been as good. So it's a pretty mixed bag. I think all of our towns have done pretty well. They're at least in the 70% levels for most of the age categories. What we worry about most is that, the younger demographic, that the school age 12 to 17 is, dragging behind. So we're seeing 55, 60%. We'd really like to see that number a little bit higher. And once we have it approved and we're able to provide vaccination for, the younger cohort, that's going to be important to make sure that they're getting vaccinated as well.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Chiefs, any questions on the COVID? No, you're good. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to bow out now. Just technical difficulties are keeping things crazy.
All right, be well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chief Gary.
Okay, I'll pick up at training hours, $249 for the month, $2607 for the year, slightly down from last year. However, you're going to see that number go up is we have 2 members in certification trainings and 0 injuries last month. We had 3 resignations, put on 1 new member, and took 1 member off of administrative leave of absence. Puts us at 64 active members. Going into a couple of the other items here. In the report, it talked about 2 new gear washing extractors are on order and scheduled. Well, they've been delivered and installed. And what they are is a hybrid washing machine where it actually extracts the carcinogens from the firefighting gear. Makes the gear a lot cleaner and safer. Aerial ladder testing through Shipman's Fire Equipment. The report talks about truck 1 was completed. However, truck 2 and engine 3, which is a 75-foot aerial, has also been completed with no issues. We began the annual hose testing process today, and with today's testing, we were testing all the large diameter hose and the spare hose, and we lost about $2,000 worth of hose today that didn't pass the testing. It was older hose, so we'll be forwarding a more complete report once we're complete with that. A couple other things, back to training. We had a very successful all-day class on man versus machinery. And what that was a class that focused on disentanglement and extrication from industrial equipment. Was a real good class there. We had a health and safety meeting this month, brought up several items that we're looking into. And I guess that's about it. Fire marshal's inspection history is also included in our report, as well as the re-inspection.
Counselor Manuel, any questions on that?
Thank you.
Okay. So, dare I ask how, with the fire marshal, how are we doing with, our apartment and condo complex issue? We had, it's no longer Century Village.
Concierge, I believe.
Concierge, yeah.
I don't have that answer for you, Ed. We can get it for you.
Ed, the fire marshal, as well as building and planner and so on, been working with the town attorney and meeting with I believe their attorneys as well, to develop a plan to straighten out all the problems. And they met a week or 2 ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, on that. And the department people sound like they are working towards fixing up all these complaints, but I don't know if they've been initiated on since the attorneys and the staff met a few weeks ago.
Oh, sure. And we did notice your drone at the Rocky Hill Fest, and so you were controlling that, running that for the event.
Yes, we were.
So that townwide, anybody, any department that has a need for it can.
Correct. At this stage, the program's not in place yet. There is an FAA level training that goes along with the operator. Through the assistance of the PD, we were able to secure no-cost training. So we're sending, I believe, 9 people through as drone operators. I believe the PD send it about the same. Once the training is complete, we each need to have separate policies, especially the police department's policy, which is a lot more stringent, but that's about all I know about the police department policy. Our policy is also going to include assisting other departments within the town with operators and whatever they need the drone for. So that's where we're at. We're still, we're hoping by January 1st to have it all up and running and going. But if there is a special call for it before then, it'll get out. And Ed, I got one other thing. last Thursday, we had the fire department, along with the PD and EMS, responded to a motor vehicle accident on Myers Drive where a car hit a building and severed 2 gas mains going into the building. I just got to toss the kudos out to the police department who got there before us and before EMS and found the operator of the car unconscious in the gas cloud. And they were able to, without the benefit of personal protection that we have, go in there, grab the victim, do a line of sight rescue, drag the victim around to the side of the building, which provided a nice area for her and secure treatment for her. So those 2 officers, and I haven't talked to Chief Custer yet, but those 2 officers did one great job. I believe it was Lieutenant Klett and Officer Garcia, maybe?
Well,
They did a
great
great
news.
job that day.
Yeah, I don't know about you, I've been getting emails from folks. Patrol is much more visible on the streets, and we're getting nice feedback from people even when they're stopped for speeding or a checkpoint, but they're commenting back that everything was, patrol officers have been very professional, and so take the opportunity to pass that along on that. So Fire Chief, thank you for that. I was going to ask you another question on Route 91, the calls there. I mean, you were on a record year. Are you still on a record year?
I have some of the preliminary numbers all put together. Actually, Representative Wood stopped me recently and asked me about that. We are at about 11% of the calls. Obviously fluctuates per the month. Last time we talked, I think actually I talked about the 2 weeks before that meeting, and it was about 15, 16%, maybe even more. But the 10% of our calls so far are up on the highway. And I'll have a lot more data for you very shortly, Ed. And I apologize, it just keeps on coming in, and the more I look into it, the more I want to add lines to it and get the accurate information that you're looking for.
Questions on that part of it? Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief. Ambulance.
Good evening. We had 452 calls in September. Brings our total up to 3,141. They broke it down as we had the major ones. We had 11 refusals, 2 canceled calls prior to arrival. We had 3 untimelies. We had 1 opiate call. We had 7 lift assists with no transport. That's part of that refusal thing you were asking about last month. So 7 of them lift assists with no transports. They still considered to be refusals because there were no injuries. We had 88 hours of training last month. Mostly we're getting all our EMTs and members recertified in CPR this month. We did half the association last week, and then the rest is going to be done this week. Along with training, our Emt Class and EMR class starts tonight, starting in, it's at Tri-Town EMT that we're working with Newington, Weathersfield, and us, and each town has people going through the class, and we're going to share the responsibilities of doing the training, make it a lot easier. We did the 9/11 ceremonies, both of them during September, at the town site and up at the VA. We also did the standby, the stand down that they had up there on the 24th. We were up there from 8 until 3:30 in the afternoon. We have 81 total members, and we have 3 brand new probationary members that started as of October 1st.
What was the member count again?
81 total members, and 3 new probationary members. And we hope to get more out of the EMT class that's in EMR class that's going on right now.
Great. Councilor Manuel?
No questions.
Okay. I don't mean to keep bringing up the vagary, but I'm wondering about that fellow with the head injury and all that. Is he He's still doing.
As far as I know, everything is going well with that person. Yeah,
At
we
some
haven't got
point,
any-
we're going to thank the police for
Yep.
saving his life. Because that was, when that first happened, it was in all our minds that somebody saved him. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, enough said on that. Police report.
Okay, for the month of September, we had 4,584 calls for service through the dispatch center. Busy month. We had 16 criminal arrests for the month, and we investigated 25 motor vehicle accidents. 19 of those were without injury, 6 with injuries. We issued 39 infractions for the month and an additional 213 warnings for a total of 252 motor vehicle stops for the month. We also did 4 car seat installations, and we had 332 training hours for the month. And staffing update. Presently, we have 3 vacancies. However, one of those will be filled this Monday, as we will be swearing in a new officer on Monday. He's an individual certified police officer from Hartford Police, 25 years of age, who will be coming on board with us, so we're looking forward to get him here. So that'll leave me with 2 additional vacancies. We posted for the positions, and we're going to be interviewing October 25th and 26th. We have a number of candidates, all certified officers that we'll be interviewing, and I'm quite confident we're going to have 2 individuals that we'll be able to utilize off that list to fill those last 2 vacancies. So if that goes well, I hope to have them on board sometime by December, and we'll be fully staffed at that point. Another thing I just wanted to mention was that approximately 1/3 of the force now is wearing body cams. So, by state mandate, we don't have to be fully involved with that program till next July, but we're rolling ours out obviously early. But what we decided to do was just select about 1/3 of the force just to start wearing them, so we could start testing them. We can see what issues are coming up with them and so forth and so on. So if you see officers out on the street, you may notice that they're wearing them, and they're kind of like beta testing for us right now. In addition to that, we are still conducting those extra patrols, utilizing the COVID grant money from the government. So that's been going quite well, and there's been a lot of contacts. And you'll probably notice that, again, the motor vehicle thefts was low for the month. So I am starting to believe now that the additional patrols are making a difference. Other than that, the only other thing I had is on October 23rd, coming up, we're going to be participating in that DEA Drug Take-Back Day. So on the 23rd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we'll be out in front of 69 Old Main Street, the Human Services driveway, and we will be accepting any drugs that people have that they want to drop off. All they have to do is just simply put them in a bag. We'll take them. We do ask, however, no needles, because needles cannot be accepted. But we'll take everything else from 10 to 2. They'll be turned over to the DEA, and they're going to incinerate all of them. And that's all I have.
Counselor Manuel?
Yeah, I have a bunch of different things. Mike, just, I'm kind of thinking about, the staffing and everything on the department and the certified and focused on that, because you want to get somebody in quick.
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, what's the emphasis on the cadet program? Because I remember when there was heavy emphasis on people who grew up in town, went through the school systems, was in the either Explorer program or cadet program. A couple of them went on to be patrol officers, outstanding, and they have a vested interest in the town, and they're here for 20, 30 years. I know you want people quick, but is there also, on the other extreme, investment in those that are younger that may, you know, obviously are going to need time to go through the program, but are there any candidates you see in the next couple of years that could serve the town?
So, you know, the emphasis, there's pros and cons to going certified officers versus young individuals entering the profession for the first time and going through the academy and the whole training program. And I believe in both of them. We have been kind of leaning more heavily towards the certifieds because of the great number of openings we had all of a sudden because of all the conflict that's been going on nationally in the past year and a half. I've always been hesitant to use certified officers because I've always liked bringing in people young and having the ability to groom them from the beginning. But with that said, I have to say I've been extremely impressed with the quality of certifieds. And you get an added dimension with the certifieds. Depending where they come from, they really appreciate working here. And I hear it consistently from them every time I see them in the hallway. So that's been a nice benefit. However, we're not abandoning, bringing in people from the ground up. So what I've been careful about with the certifieds is we've been lucky. We've had certified officers coming off a 20-year career apply, and we've had certified officers that only been several, in fact, 2 years in large cities that want out. So I'm trying to keep that balance so there's not a drain like in 10 years when everyone leaves. So I just want you to be aware of that. But circling back to the cadet program, great program. It's still in operation. It doesn't, however, unfortunately, produce the number of police candidates that I'd like to see. And I'm not going to hesitate. There would be a preference for Rocky Hill residents, obviously. But a lot of them, for some reason, the program takes you up to high school, right? And then they go to high school, they graduate, they go to college, and then something happens in between, and all of a sudden they kind of lose the drive for law enforcement. So very few have come back and pursued the career and come back and applied for us. And we'd love to see it. As to whether there's any in the pipeline right now, I'd have to talk to Jeff Foss-Rugen. He's the coordinator of the program, but he's really good at letting me know, hey, there's this one or that one that I think is really got great potential. And again, we push the job on them. We tell them we're going to be looking, and there's a disconnect after high school and college.
I just remember, and I know one of your lieutenants is a former explorer. But I remember, and Mike, you remember too, some of the, like Lenny and Wally, and some that went through, I mean, they were just outstanding. So it's just something that I was thinking of, and I've heard it from a couple of people. Why are there so many out-of-town people that are obviously certified to come in quick instead of an investment in the younger folks who live here into their own community? But I understand your point that there's always a vacancy that you need to fill quickly, and there's just not enough time to bring somebody up that's that young, and you need somebody certified.
Yes, recently that's been the case, but we're still open, again, to bringing in entry-level candidates from the ground up. That's how I like to refer to it. But again, we haven't really had that many come from the program. And the numbers are up and down too. It's hard to maintain a level of 10, which is really our goal.
Right.
So, and I'm not going to lie to you, the last year and a half has been tough. It's been tough attracting candidates. I teach as an adjunct at the community college in CJ, and I've seen a dip in enrollment in our program, and it's just unfortunate. And I think it's going to take a little time to get that back. So we're dealing with that as well.
Okay. Just a couple of other thoughts. Has there been any thought on, when we're talking about the schools and education, we have the SROs and everything, but I recall a time when we had a dedicated crime prevention unit that went out to the elementary schools with their kits and did these like what not to do, whether it's fire or police and drugs, everything under the sun, and it stuck with people. And they were always up to date on how to educate the youth, and even companies going out and educating companies on crime prevention and things like that. So there's two things. The reason I'm bringing it up is it was a great publicity for the department to be able to see these things in the paper, that a crime prevention unit was going out educating different aspects. And the other thing was internal, where a patrolman could add this to their resume. They don't have to be in the bureau. They don't have to be a sergeant. Just like the SRO, this could be kind of like a specialty that they do. It wouldn't take away from their patrol time, but it would be an added kind of expertise that they could have.
Right.
And that goes hand in hand with the next thing, and I think I brought this up a couple of years ago. Is there a DARE equivalent? I know, the SROs, I'm sure, are teaching at Griswold and Rocky Hill, or the high school. But I mean, is there a DARE equivalent to the elementary schools?
So, yeah, let me answer that one first. No, there's not that formalized program that we all grew up with that we recognized as DARE. So what's kind of happened is those services, all the services you mentioned, we still provide. So things kind of got morphed from crime prevention into community service. So now we have a community service unit headed by Sergeant Steve Morgan. And within that unit, it's just him. However, we have a list of officers. And, the key, you got to have people who want to do this stuff. We have a list of officers who he assigns to different community service, whether it be a lecture on crime safety or whatever, personal protection, etc. So we still provide the service. You have to go through Steve, and we'll come out and we'll speak to groups, and we do. The schools is kind of changed a little bit with the creation of the SROs. So we got away from the formalized DARE programs, and after that we had life skills for a while. I don't know if you remember that. And now it's just kind of been watered down to our SROs teaching in the schools, a youth and law program. The other piece of this too, it's hard to get the school to sign off on some of these programs because time. It's not because they don't support us. It's just, I guess, their time, their curriculum is such that they got to get in their stuff. So there's very little time left for the formal programs that we used to have. So what they've kind of given us is a piece in this youth and law. It's a long-running program, and our cops will come in and they'll talk for a piece of it. So, yeah.
So there's no more McGruff or the car.
McGruff is still around. I think McGruff's last appearance was the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and he was a hit, I might add.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're utilizing him in the lower grades. I would have to follow up on that.
But I mean, one of the things I'm trying to get to, Mike, is when these things were active, there were articles in the paper, there were pictures, and it was publicity. It was, this is what the police department does. And it just seems like nowadays it's just everything is related to bad news. The accountability bill,
Yeah.
the stolen cars. It's just always bad news. And we don't hear about the SROs, the residents. I mean, the parents will learn from their kids who are directly impacted, but the rest of us don't hear anything. So we don't see a picture of them teaching a group of kids. We don't see a McGruff anywhere. We just don't get that impression that there's any sort of crime prevention or DARE or anything like that. So that's the only reason I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
This is my last meeting. I just want to kind of throw out a list of things I've always wanted to throw out and get your feedback on.
I appreciate it, and those programs are important. Some of them are outdated, but they're still important, and we try to combat the negative exposure with social media. I mean, everything's changed since we first got on the job. So now, you're right, nothing's happening in the paper. However, I might add, there is a piece in the local news about some donations from residents to the K-9 program that's going to air. But you don't get a lot on TV either, so we taken it upon ourselves to try to increase our media imprint, if you will. So we're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we try to put out there those good stories. But beyond that, I don't know what else you could really do.
Right.
You know.
The other thing, as I go down my list, when we talk about visibility, the extra patrol, and it's just costly. Has there been any thought about bringing back the cruiser with the mannequin? That was popular. It was highly visible. The pain in the ass, excuse my language, was always having to move it every 4 or 8 hours. But that's about it. I could just imagine it sitting on France Street for a while, or one of the side streets on the West End where a lot of the stuff is happening. I mean, I just remember it was always a positive experience because there'd be funny stories. People would be walking up trying to ask this mannequin questions and things like that. So.
Yes. There hasn't been any active discussion about bringing the mannequin back, but I will tell you, it does have an effect. It's a short-term effect, just like when we put those speed signs out. Residents will tell you, initially they all slow down and they see it, and then after a couple days, the speeds go right back up again. So it's a short-term benefit, if you will, and it's kind of a pain. You have to move it along around town, but we pulled it in because some of the cars got damaged with the mannequin in there. So we thought it was starting to become a target, whether it was kids or I'm not sure who it was. So we pulled it out, and we haven't used it since. So, I mean, certainly something we can discuss, but omnipresence, I agree, is very important.
Have you heard of any complaints about cars doing donuts at Ames parking lot?
At Ames?
Yeah.
Not specifically.
Okay. I received a complaint about that. I wasn't sure if you had received anything from any residents. And then Cold Spring Road, have you received any complaints about drag racing at all?
Not on Cold Spring.
Okay.
I mean, we do get those complaints, both of those, but I don't recall any at those two locations. And I go through the blotter every day. Not to say it couldn't have happened, but not a consistent problem that I'm aware of.
Okay. That's it. Thanks. I appreciate it.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Hey, John.
Oh, thanks, Ed. Appreciate it.
Your last.
Yep.
Great ideas. Rocky Hill schools have been open for the entire pandemic season, but with really less time internally. So great programs. My kids enjoyed DARE and the bike program where you got a bike helmet, bike safety program, and all of those kinds of great things. But there's probably a future for them, but not until we get a little bit more past this pandemic, I would think.
Yeah, that's a piece of it too.
For sure. So I appreciated the question, and so you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter, and you're on Facebook.
Yep.
And did you have a problem with Facebook or the website? You have two websites, the town website and just a police website. No,
No, just one town. We're on the town website with everyone else.
You're on a town website, so there's no
There was
RockyHillPolice.com.
There was at one point, and that's
This year?
No, years ago.
Years ago.
So that's been closed down. So our only web address now is through the town with all the rest of the departments.
And Facebook.
Yes. So quick story on Facebook, full disclosure. So Twitter's been fine, Instagram's been fine. And what we try to do is we try to frame the content to those platforms. So Instagram is a feel good, well, the pictures and the stuff, the officers are doing. Facebook, you get a lot of people, so street closures, that kind of stuff. We kind of try to make it appropriate. So last April, on Facebook, April Fools, we put a story out that we were retiring our police canines and going to obtain goats and use goats in lieu of the dogs.
Yoga, huh?
Well, yes. The hits went through the roof, and we had people from all over the world responding to it, many of which who thought we were serious and wanted to know more. And it was a riot. But I guess what Facebook does is if there's a spike in activity, they contact you to, confirm that, are you guys really, is this, what are you doing? And part of that process, they ask for our passwords and phone numbers and information we didn't have, because this had been created by IT staff under a prior administration. So without having that information, that page got suspended, and has been suspended. And we've worked with IT, try to find that information, and finally, John Nowakowski says it's just we don't know where it is. So we had a lot of followers. We've been dragging our feet, and we didn't want to lose them, but we felt the best decision now is just to create a new one. So we are working on that actively. So we will be back up on Facebook shortly. The other two platforms are working. But that's the story behind it. And we had like 25% of the town following us on Facebook. They seem to like that one.
So, and then your 3 vacancies off of total staff of 40, right?
41.
41,
Again, one of them's being filled Monday.
Monday.
So
So
we'll just have the last 2 coming off this list, which interviews will be next week.
And just a quick question. Mike, how much does it cost to send somebody through the academy? Is it just the salary?
No, there's a salary, there's the equipment, uniforms, and it used to be free, and now they're charging like $1,600 to state per person on top of it. Comes out, it's all told several $1,000s.
So another advantage to getting certified.
Yeah.
well, and just I have been definitely getting emails about people who talk to a new certified patrol officer from out of town, and they just commented on the professionalism and that they didn't know who they were, and they identified themselves. So I have the names of the officers, but it just that's not important. What matters is that I think the general public is feeling good about the
Yes,
patrol officers that
that's
are
great.
approaching them anyways. That I don't know about you, but I am seeing or hearing that. So I do think there's a desire out there to interact with the patrol, and it may be the kids, but it's also our community.
This list of candidates that we'll be interviewing Monday and Tuesday, almost half of them came as referrals from certified officers we had hired that are so happy with the department, the town, that they're recruiting their colleagues from larger cities and towns, Newington included.
I always thought Rocky Hill would be a great place to work, other than maybe some more other types of municipalities.
Certainly
so.
better than Baltimore.
Yeah. So the calls for service really spiked, and we were already on track to really exceed total calls for service. Do you have a new basic projection for year-end calls, total calls for service?
Well,
Like around 35,000?
yeah, we could be pushing that. It never goes down. It's been creeping upward the last several years. A big spike last month. I can't explain it. We'll have to see if that continues. But yeah, I think you're going to see us. Generally instead of 30, 32, we could be close to 35. So it just kind of supports the additional staffing, I think.
I think what might help at the next meeting would be an explanation of what a call is. So if there's 3,500 calls, it could be a traffic post, it could be an actual service call, it could be this, it could be that. Because there's probably numbers in there that are just flat, like there's a consistent number of traffic posts and park, walk, and talks and things like that, right, that are part of the numbers.
Absolutely, and that's the bulk of them. What we do, property checks, that gets a number. So calls for service, if you give it a number, it's not an actual call or a crime. It's any event that utilizes officers' time. Okay? We track resources. So if you're doing a property check, you're getting out and you're walking around, you're doing a property check at Ames, okay, and you call that in, all right, you're using a resource. That gets a number.
Still has to be done.
So a lot of it is, I would suspect now that we're getting numbers that we didn't have before, there's more activity, self-initiated activity. And property checks is one of those areas. So, yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Chief Custer. Moving on to the emergency management report.
We're still working on the background checks.
All right, and no catastrophes, huh? Report. All right, old business. We moved up, and we are here from new business. John, no?
No,
Nothing,
no.
nothing other?
No?
John,
Motion
Manuel?
to adjourn.
Second?